hello everybody. I'm Jason Selfie, co-founder and CEO of Dimensional Energy. So Dimensional Energy is scaling chemical reactors that convert carbon dioxide into fuels and molecules that our society relies upon with sunlight. We have support from the National Science Foundation and a development contract with Royal Dutch Shell. Before I go into the details of what I'm doing right now, I'd like to share a little bit of a personal journey with you. So I started out by getting a degree from Cornell in 1992 in natural resources management. I was interested in getting into policy work, but I decided that I wanted to go into starting businesses that could be good for the environment. There weren't many options at the time in '92 to do that, so I decided to save money by sailing boats around the world and starting a skateboard manufacturing company. So what I learned from being in the middle of the ocean and subsequently making tens of thousands of skateboards is that our pollution is everywhere, and making sustainable products that people can afford is really hard work. But if we listen, our past provides an opportunity to build a future. And that's why I'm here to start Dimensional Energy with my co-founders and help our industries remake the way we make things. I lead a team of amazing engineers and subject matter experts. My core IP has an exclusive license from Cornell University that comes out of my co-founders' labs, David Erickson and Tobias Hanrath. So how many of you have seen chemical reactors or fuel reactors? Just think outside of New York City and New Jersey, right? So imagine if these production facilities could operate like within a circular economy modeled after nature. So this is what it looks like if fossil fuel companies go solar. Our reactors behave like trees, so these production environments can behave more like forests. So schemes exist today to capture and sequester carbon dioxide. But the problem is that's really expensive. Companies would literally have to invest billions of dollars to do what? Put CO2 in the ground? Economies don't work like that. For carbon mitigation to work out, it has to be profitable. People need to make money doing it, and that's where we come in. A recent private report by McKinsey illustrated a market opportunity of $1.2 trillion if we convert just 15% of our CO2 emissions globally. 40% of that opportunity is right in our wheelhouse as we scale, and we've identified an immediate $2 billion opportunity from our customers that we're talking to now. We're operating at a 1-liter scale out of a McGovern Center on Cornell University campus with support from the National Science Foundation and a development contract from Shell. With further validation from Shell and a techno-economic analysis, we'll be raising money to build a 30-liter reactor in the next 13 months. That 30-liter reactor will give us the techno-economic data that we need to scale to 300 liters. This unit here could position upstream from a chemical or fuel provider and would be commercially viable at this scale. Our ultimate vision is to supply chemical and fuel producers at a large scale. So a facility like this could produce gigadollars while reducing CO2 emissions by the gigaton. Our eventual business model is to license to chemical companies and to scale up service providers like Technip. We'll have ongoing revenue from selling consumables like the catalysts, the photo catalysts that we make, and proprietary waveguide parts. So we are Dimensional Energy. If you're really interested in what we're doing, tell your colleagues we're hiring. We're seeking a full-time CTO to join our team. We're raising money. And I'm in this for one particular reason. As investors and entrepreneurs, we have the opportunity to create a more just and equitable and durable society. But first, we have to have that intention. Thank you very much.
Have you in your conversations with, even though they're quite early, with any of the chemical companies or other customers you're talking to, settled on some economics that you need to hit with this system?
Yeah, so right now we have developed a techno-economic analysis that needs to be further fleshed out. With working with Shell, we're going to build upon that. We know what the feedstocks cost going into our system, and the outputs that we can generate right now, we model at about a 40% margin potential. And that's for an industry that operates on 9% gross margins, that's pretty remarkable. So I'm going to say that's low fidelity, but we've penciled that out and it looks promising. So again, low fidelity and a lot more work to do, but that's where we're looking right now.
And where do you expect to get the carbon dioxide from?
So there's two potential sources. One is from a point source emitter, say like a power plant. We could take that CO2 concentrated with existing sequestration equipment and then convert it into a higher value product. Another scenario, which I depicted on the screen here, would be to position upstream, and then we would be delivered CO2 by some means similar to any other production facility. We would take that gas and turn it into a higher value feedstock for a downstream chemical or fuel provider. And we're in the middle of negotiating we're a potential finalist in the Carbon X Prize. So we may have an in situ scenario in Wyoming where we accelerate our first pilot, where we would position downstream from a coal-fired power plant and convert a portion of their carbon dioxide into something that could be transported off-site or burned on-site.
You have an interesting background and have done a lot, but how did you come to this project in particular? Good
question. So the skateboard company that I started was licensed in 2014, and I started working with a proof of concept center funded by NYSERDA called Nexus New York, and I was mentoring clean energy startups. I knew I wanted to start another business. At the time, I was doing a sustainability-focused product launch work with Scott's Miracle-Gro, and figuring out what I wanted to do next. My co-founders both applied to Nexus New York at the same time, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do when I met them, and we formed this company together. So that's our origin story, and that was 2.5 years ago.
From a scaling perspective that you were talking about, because now, as you were describing before, kind of going through more of the proof of concept phase, is the idea that the company itself would be spending on the CapEx to scale, or you had mentioned the license model.
Yeah.
Would the idea be that the companies who you license to would be the ones putting out the CapEx to build the generators?
That's right. So companies that would utilize a facility like this would outlay the capital. In most cases, it's highly likely we'll build the first one, that 2,000 ton per year unit, to prove out the model. And but there are companies, say, that operate like Shell, who would build a facility like that, but also Technip, who just is in the business of licensing breakthrough technologies or existing technologies, and then deploying large-scale units.
And tell us what you're looking for in your CTO so we can source properly.
Oh, okay. So the CTO we're looking for would have a broad array of skills. Ideally, a background in photochemistry, a background in optics, and a background in catalysis. So those are a lot of really, I would take one of the above. But most of all, you got to fit into our culture. We have an amazing team that all loves working together. And we just did employee reviews, and I promised them that they'd be interviewing our CTO before we hire them. So they're going to have to fit in. Thank you.